Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Deadpool and Wolverine has officially been out for a couple weeks now, and I decided I kind of wanted to make a video that might be controversial. A lot of you guys are probably going to attack me in the comments, and you guys are probably going to be like, this ranking is absolutely horrible. So allow me to explain what exactly I'm ranking here. So today I'm going to be ranking every Marvel movie, and I think that there's a couple TV shows in here that are multiversal stories, and I'm ranking them on how well they use the multiverse in their stories. So instead of it just being like, okay, these are all the movies that have the multiverse in it, and I'm going to rank them on which movies are the best, I'm ranking them on how well they use the multiverse. Because in some of these movies, you can tell that they had like a really well thought out reason for why they wanted the multiverse in this and how they were going to use the multiverse. And then there's other ones where they're like, it's just a movie that happens to have the multiverse in it. So before I dive into this, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm ranking all Marvel. So Sony properties included. If there's any Fox movies that dealt with the multiverse, they'd be included in this. I'm also including a couple of TV shows. Both of those are Disney Plus originals. And we're just going to dive right into this. Okay, actually, before I get too far into this, I'm giving two honorable mentions because these movies technically could have been included on here, but I wanted to just make it an even top 10. So I'm going to talk about Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and Morbius. They both would be in 11th place and 12th place on my list because both of them are attempts at having multiversal stakes, because in Morbius, they have the post-credit scene where Michael Keaton's Vulture shows up and he's just like, hey, I don't know what's going on here, but it must be something about that Spider-Man guy, and it's so weird. And it genuinely makes absolutely no sense. And I think that they're trying to kind of retcon it with some of the other stuff that they're doing. I don't think it's working. And then the other one with Venom, Let There Be Carnage, they kind of do the opposite, where Venom randomly like spews, exposition dump to Eddie. And he says, I have a giant universal hive mind that goes across multiverses and thousands of years or whatever. And then he ends up in the MCU. And both of them, they're post-credit scenes, so I didn't want to include them in here, but I did want to mention I know they exist, and I know that they technically include the multiverse. But with that being said, we're going to dive into the top 10. Alrighty, and coming in dead last place, we have the movie Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, I know some of you guys are going to start off by saying, Blake, that's not a multiversal movie. I am aware, and that's kind of part of the reason why I wanted to talk about it, but I also want to talk about it because I think it's really weird some of the decisions they made with this movie. For one, this was the last movie of the Infinity Saga. For some reason, they don't consider Endgame the last movie of the Infinity Saga. They consider it this movie, and it's a movie that kind of like teases the concept of the multiverse, and they have Jake Gyllenhaal's character come in, explain almost perfectly what the multiverse is, kind of like pretend like he's a person from another universe, and he has these, multiversal threat, and it went from my universe, and now it's going to be to your universe, and it's going to destroy every universe and whatever. And the main reason why I wanted to include this is that story completely made up. Somebody in his group of people just randomly wrote that up and was like, this is a cool thing. We're going to pretend like there are multiple universes and we're from another Earth. And the main reason why I think this is so weird is he decided to say that this is Earth 616. This is the first movie that kind of went with, hey, the Marvel MCU movies, they're 616. That's the universe that they're in. That's the numerical, destination for Earth. Our Earth that we've been watching. And I think it's insane that they stuck with this being Earth 616 whenever they did Multiverse of Madness. But that being said, since they got that number right, I like that there's a lot of fan theories and a lot of speculation that like the person who wrote that script or whatever and made up that fake story about where, Jake Gyllenhaal's character came from. I like the theory that they actually used Tony Stark's old research about the multiverse, and Tony Stark potentially actually had a lot of files and documents talking about the multiverse and his theories on the multiverse. I think that'd be cool. Will they ever tie that in? Probably not. And so that's why it's going to be in dead last place, because they don't actually do anything with the multiverse. Alrighty, and coming in 9th place, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This one was really underwhelming. Kevin Feige himself said, alrighty, this one is going to be the one that's going to be starting off everything that is to come with the multiversal saga. There's going to be something that happens in this movie that is going to trigger all of the events leading to Avengers 5. And it was just very, very underwhelming. They spend the majority of the movie in the quantum realm. It's very obvious that Peyton Reed kind of wanted to make a Star Wars with this. And it's like Star Wars, but with a lot less of the characters. I mean, we get some fun Plantoon stuff. That's not what it's called. Is that what they're called? The bars in canteens? I don't even know what they're called, but like the bars and like the taverns and the scenes and stuff like that. Like, it's interesting, but also we spent so much time in the quantum realm. We don't spend enough time with Kang. Kang is from another universe, which is a really interesting thing that we definitely should have learned more about. We don't really understand why he fully gets banished. Like, they kind of show us a 3-second little clip of him wiping out universes, and we're supposed to be like, okay, cool, so they banished him for that. And then at the end, they give us a post-credit scene, which is just a bunch of Kang variants, and I think that this is one of the dumbest things Marvel ever did. So many Kang variants, and they're all played by Jonathan Majors. Obviously, they had no way of knowing fully, hey, is Jonathan Majors a good person? Hey, is there, any controversy or anything? Is he going to be good to go for the next couple of years? I still think that Ramatut should have been a different person. Immortus should have been played by a different actor. I think that this kind of is Marvel digging a hole themselves, and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania overall just not a great movie, and I think that they also very underutilized the multiverse in this movie. Coming in 8th place, this one is so weird, but we have Loki season 1 and season 2. I really enjoy this show. I think that the show is absolutely incredible, but something they do a really terrible job with explaining in here is timeline branches versus multiverses. Like, there's a bunch of universes stacked on top of each other. That's the multiverse. Sometimes these timelines will branch, and then there's multiple branches growing at the same time. And for the most part, that wasn't going to be a complication because, well, they prune the branch, and then there's going to be that one unified timeline, and we have the sacred timeline. But what I don't understand is multiverses. Are they separate timelines? Like, each multiverse has their own sacred timeline, or are the branches that end up surviving and growing and becoming their own thing, is that a separate multiverse? They don't do a good job explaining it, and I really thought that this was a multiversal thing because they're introducing different Kang variants in here, and they're doing a lot of interesting stuff with, what if this thing happens and then this branches off into this, and then the TVA for the longest time seemed like it was something that it goes across different universes. And in Deadpool and Wolverine, they even kind of double down on this. They're like, okay, well, this specific group of people are in charge of this multiverse, and this specific group of people are in charge of this multiverse. So overall, I love the show, but they do not do an excellent job of explaining timelines versus multiverse. And then with the finale and everything that happens with Loki, God of Stories, did he just create the multiverse? I don't know. It's very confusing. I really enjoy the movie, and I really enjoy the show, and I do think it is one of the best projects they've done since Avengers Endgame. But as far as multiversal stuff go, I don't even know if it really does multiverse stuff. Coming in 7th place, I fear people are going to hate me for having this above Loki, but we have the Marvels. And part of the reason, hear me out. For one, before somebody goes, oh my God, but you said earlier that the reason why, I'm blanking on the name right now, Venom Let There Be Carnage, and the reason why Morbius are so low is because they're only in end credit scenes, and we only get to see the other universe in an end credit scene. Yes, however, the means that they use to get from one multiverse to the other multiverse is through a rift in time and space. And I think that concept right there is going to be a really, really important thing going forward, because as of right now, the only way that we know to get from one universe to another universe is America Chavez or dreamwalking. And dreamwalking is something only extremely, extremely powerful people can do. And then when it comes to, actually they can't do that anymore because they destroyed the Darkhold. So never mind. The only way they know how to get from universe to universe right now is America Chavez. And if they are trying to make a movie where characters are needing to go from one universe to another universe, they're not just going to be able to have America Chavez everywhere at once to, make a portal for this person and then make a portal for that person and then go through that portal, because they're going to need a portal back to this universe. It just doesn't make sense. So I think that the way that this movie introduced the rifts in time and space, and that being a different way for people to be able to get from one universe to another one, is going to be an important thing. I think that some character like Reed Richards is going to be able to create a device that lets people create a rift in time and space, but I think that the problem is they're not going to be able to control it that well, and it's going to create incursions, and it's going to create a lot of issues, and that's probably something that Doctor Doom in either Avengers Doomsday or Avengers Secret Wars is going to have to start wiping out all the Reed Richards and start wiping out universes that are starting to incur, because it's going to collapse the multiverse. That's just a theory, but overall, I think that the Marvels is doing a good job of setting up that theory. So that's why I have it here. Coming in 6th place, in my opinion, this movie so underutilized the multiverse trope. It's not even funny. We got Spider-Man No Way Home. I love this movie. I'm not going to say anything negative about the fact that we got 3 Spider-Man in one movie. I still, to this day, think that that's amazing. I think it's really epic that Sony let them do this. I think that it is incredible that we actually got to see them interact. We got kind of an idea of what Tobey has been doing in the last 10, 15 years, and what we got an idea of what Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man has been doing the last, 7 or 8 years since his last movie. And I think that that is incredible. And I love that. I think that Green Goblin in this movie, one of the best villains we've seen in the entirety of the MCU. The return of Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, once again, fantastic. However, I feel like this movie missed a very, very big part of the multiverse stuff, which is multiple universes. There is an infinite number of different universes out there, and we get to see variants from 3 separate universes, and one of them is our own universe. Like, we literally are only seeing 2 other universes converge here, and the one thing that I really wish that they had done with this movie to kind of switch that up is just have one villain that is a villain that hasn't been introduced or hasn't been connected to one of those 2 other universes, because they almost sort of did that with Venom, and then they had decided to not have Venom included in the movie at all. He just shows up in the post-credit scene, and that to me really bothers me. I really wish that something that they had done differently here is maybe make like Jamie Foxx's Electro a different Jamie Foxx. A different Electro, and have him be one where like he didn't really know Spider-Man, he didn't really have those interactions with Spider-Man, and during the final fight sequence, whenever Andrew Garfield says, "Hey Max, I missed you," or whatever, he would have freaked out and he would have fangirled. He would have been like, "Oh my god, Spider-Man knows me," or like something, because every single one of them being the exact variants from their exact universes kind of bothered me. It also created a lot of plot holes, because the whole point is they got pulled to this universe because they knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and Max had no idea, and there's other characters who I feel like didn't know. But yeah, that being said, overall, movie's great. It makes for a really good time. The multiverse aspects of it, not great. Okay, now coming in 5th place, I have Deadpool and Wolverine, and I am going to defend this with a couple of major things. For one, I feel like using the Void to create all of your gratuitous cameos is such a cheap way to do it. And I understand that this movie is completely meta, and that it does a lot of fan service, and that it's 100%, aware, hey, this is kind of ridiculous, but we're going to do it just because we can. And I think that that's awesome. They really do a good job of shining a light on, hanging a lantern, that's the term, on some of the things that are wrong with this movie. But that doesn't fix the fact that there are things that are wrong with this movie. One of the main reasons why I don't like this as a multiversal movie is because we montage through the main thing that makes this a multiversal movie. The scenes where he's going and looking for other Wolverines and stuff like that. For one, I wish we got an extended scene of the Wolverine versus Hulk fight. I understand why we don't, but at the same time, if that was the post-credit scene instead of the Chris Evans monologue, I would have loved it. It would have been incredible, and I really wish we got some of that. I'm sure if Secret Wars ends up being as amazing and epic as everybody thinks it's going to be, we'll get a fight like that in Secret Wars. But my big thing is, this movie doesn't really go from multiverse to multiverse to multiverse. We go to the 616 to see Happy Hogan. We go to the main universe that Deadpool takes place in, and then we go to the Void. And then the Void is all of the multiversal cameos. And oh my god, there's this thing from this universe, and there's this thing from this universe. And I understand that part of it is because those universes have died, but also I just feel like the Void is such a cop-out. And then my main thing that I also have an issue with here is at no point in this movie are there any actual multiversal stakes. Like Cassandra Nova, I was expecting to break out of the Void at some point in the first act, and then the movie be the TVA desperately needs Deadpool and Wolverine to go and track down Cassandra Nova, and that's when they were going to start going from universe to universe. So overall, this probably is just my expectations for this movie being way too high, but I just feel like they don't use the multiverse as well, and a lot of people are saying that this is the best multiverse movie they've done, and I strongly disagree. Alrighty, and coming in 4th place, we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I love this movie. I think that it is incredibly overhated on, and I think that one of the main issues that this movie struggles with is the advertising for it. They 100% gave away all of the big secrets. They gave away everything that was going to happen in this movie. They kind of sold us on, okay, there's going to be some great, huge, epic moments, and then whenever the movie came out, we got to see John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, and I think that was one of the only big pops. But even then, that's a big pop. I feel like a lot of people are very quick to be like, this movie is only in 3 different universes, and they're very quick to be like, there's not really a whole lot of multiversal shenanigans happening here. But we literally get to see in alternate universes Avengers Endgame battle, not Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War battle. We get to see the Battle of Titan from a different universe, and I think that that's awesome. I think that that's incredible. We get to see a universe where the Avengers and the X-Men all are working together along with the Fantastic Four. That's pretty cool. I think that everything with the 838 was epic, and overall, I think that this is the best one that shows a multiversal threat. And I like the fact that in it, they show that Doctor Strange is one of the biggest threats to the multiverse, which we've seen in other forms of media, other forms of content, that is accurate. And then another thing about that is, in this movie, they introduce America Chavez, the one person who could go through the multiverse, right? And she's a young girl. She doesn't know how to use her powers. It's a lot of chaos. She doesn't really fully have her powers under a good, control. And she's opening portals to random places. And something that I love about this movie is that at the end of the movie, her and Doctor Strange have a conversation, and Doctor Strange is like, hey, look, you might not know what you're doing, but subconsciously, I think you do. Every single portal that you had opened today has taken us to a universe that we needed to go to, and I think that entire speech is so incredibly underrated. I think that this shows us that our Doctor Strange is one of the only good Doctor Stranges in the entire multiverse, which that's kind of a really bold thing to do, but hey, I liked it. And I just think that overall, we got a lot of great sequences here that nobody ever talks about. I mean, we literally see an Earth that is being destroyed via like an incursion during the sequence where he goes to the Sacrum Sanctora and they have the music fight. That was pretty cool. And a lot of people don't talk about it, but I love it. And I think that it's awesome. And everything that they do with is it Dreamwalking? Epic. Scarlet Witch, incredible villain. Overall, love this movie. Alrighty, and coming in third place, this is a huge hear me out because I know it has gotten worse. But What If? In my opinion, the first season of What If is everything I would want from a multiversal movie. For one, a multiversal threat that feels like a multiversal threat, that feels like he can go into any universe he wants and just absolutely destroy everything. Ultron Infinity, in my opinion, is the best villain that they have done post-Endgame, and I will die on that hill. He is absolutely incredible. He's super menacing. The sequence where he sees the Watcher for the first time, and he literally looks at the camera and says, "I can see you." Literally bone shaking, dude. Like, I watched that and I was quivering in my boots. I was like, okay, that's not okay. That's not supposed to happen. And on top of that, we're just getting to see a lot of different what if scenarios, which that's the point of the show. So I'm glad they got that across. And I think that overall it does a really good job of showing a bunch of different places that, could be explored in the future movies. And I think that they also do a good job of, bringing us like different characters who in different universes still love each other and still have these incredible connections. Because one of my favorite things about What If is, I believe it's season 8 of the first season, when Hawkeye and Black Widow are on the run together. They're the only two people alive in their universe, and they're doing whatever they can to stay alive for each other. And even though times are really bleak, it still shows that those two characters love each other so much that they would go through literally anything together. And that's awesome. I think that stuff like that's fantastic. I love the Man Out of Time episode with Steve Rogers. I know a lot of people were I'm not a really big fan of that episode. And a lot of people were kind of disappointed that Captain Carter was in it, which I get. But also, they're doing a lot of really fun stuff. Like the Zombies episode was great. Season 1, episode 4, the Doctor Strange episode, fantastic. Overall, absolutely love the show, and I think that they're doing great work with it. I can't wait for Uatu the Watcher to show up in live action. I think that it's going to be amazing. But for the top 2, after I had mentioned that Sony properties are included, I hope you guys all knew who the definitive top 2 were. Coming in second place, we have Into the Spider-Verse, and this movie is just absolutely incredible. Phil Lord and Chris Miller absolutely kill these movies. Like, I don't care what anybody says, these movies are pretty damn close to perfect movies. On top of just being comic book movies that literally look like a comic book was just thrown onto a movie screen, the multiversal aspects of it are absolutely fantastic. I love everything with Kingpin wanting to build a mega collider. I like that it shows the consequences of trying to mess with the multiverse, because in this movie, he is trying to steal essentially his family from another universe, and it backfires on him. It shows you that you shouldn't be using the multiverse for selfish purposes, right? And I think that that's awesome. For one, we get to see Peter Porker in a high budget blockbuster movie. You kidding me? We got to see Spider-Ham in a movie. That's awesome. I love that. Spider Noir is Noir. I think I said it wrong. Spider Noir is absolutely incredible in this, and I think that Nicolas Cage voice acting him is just fantastic. And just overall, we get to see so many different variants of Spider-Man. We get to see them interact with each other. It's an incredible origin story, which that's not what we're ranking them on, but yeah, it's so cool. I absolutely love that. And just overall, I love the fact that we get to see so many different people interacting with so many different people, and every single aesthetic, like every single piece of animation in this just feels so handcrafted and perfect. And the glitching animation and all of the stuff behind that and like what it means, all of the people not being able to be outside of their universe for too long. It's really interesting. I love everything they do with the Super Collider, and I think that overall having a villain as menacing as the Kingpin from this first one is awesome. But speaking of villains, I had to give the first place to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse for just giving us one of the most menacing multiversal villains of all time. He started off as just like a silly little goofy character that we're just laughing at. We're just like, I can't believe this guy's serious. Like he's just a guy that makes holes. He's like a little polka dot man. And then he goes from that to realizing, oh, I can steal all of this energy from all of these super mega colliders, and I could just go from any universe to any universe, and I have so much power, and literally nobody can stop me. They can get an entire team of spider people together, and they can't stop me. And in my opinion, that's what makes this movie incredibly, incredibly cool. Multiverse should dive into the entire multiverse, and if you're making a multiversal movie, the entire multiverse should have stakes of some kind or another, and I feel like that's where a lot of these movies are missing the mark. It doesn't feel like the entire multiverse is at stake. It feels like just the one universe that they're in is at stake, which, once again, kind of a cool like thing, and it's a pretty, you know, nice way to really like amp up the stakes of this specific movie. But I feel like it's going to be something similar to, and this is another theory, I'm sorry for throwing a bunch of random theories into this video, but the Fantastic Four movie that we're getting next year, I feel like more than likely is going to end with our characters having their universe destroyed and having to somehow get from their universe into the 616, because they're in a futuristic 60s timeline. Mr. Fantastic and all of them are going to show up in Avengers Doomsday. They have to get somewhere where they would be able to interact with our Avengers. And so I feel like we're going to see a multiversal movie in that case where they'll get their entire universe destroyed, and that's huge stakes. But that being said, with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the entire multiverse feels like it's at stake. It feels like everybody's going to die. And I like the way that they also create you know, okay, for some reason I blanked really hard on that. Canon events. I like the concept of canon events and the fact that, like, if people do not have, you know, these specific events happen to them, it is going to destroy the multiverse. The entire web of life and destiny is introduced in this movie, and they literally visualize it perfectly. And I just think that overall, this is one of the best multiverse movies of all time, and Marvel really should be learning from Sony. Wow, I can't believe I just said that. I said that like legitimately. They need to learn from Phil and Lord and Miller. I'm just going to say Lord and Miller because I keep accidentally mixing up their first names. But overall, I think that this was a fun ranking to do. I'm sure the comments of this one are going to be very, very sane. But that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. And now that you know what I'm ranking these movies on, maybe if you guys want to leave your rankings down below, that'd be awesome. But that being said, I'm going to head out now. Peace out. Bow. Bow, bow. I accidentally just hit my drum.